OTBB Trust Index. Today I'm joined with Mike Lovatt, who's created a scoring system to rank bookmakers or betting sites online with an OTBB score. So Mike, can you explain a little bit more about what this Trust Index is?
I think I came up with it because I wanted a good way to rate bookies that was fair for both new bookies and old bookies, because it's unfair to say that you could trust, say, Betfred more than you could trust a bookie that's 3 years old just because Betfred have been going for nearly 100 years. So I came up with that. And then the second reason was I wanted a way to score it that was more based on like 5 different points to score them on, because trust is more than just like, can you trust, like why can you trust a bookmaker? And the other reason was previously people had just been using Trustpilot to see whether or not a bookie was trustworthy, but no one is ever going to leave a good review of a bookie, because if they were winning from that bookie, then they're not just going to go hop on Trustpilot, they're off spending the winnings or they're planning more bets. So people only ever leave negative 1-star reviews of bookies on Trustpilot. So if you look at any of the UK high street bookies, they've all got terrible reviews on Trustpilot, and bookies themselves are not allowed to incentivize customers to leave reviews. They can't say, "Oh, we'll give you a £5 free bet if you give us a good review," because that's like against advertising standards laws, isn't it? So yeah, I came up with the trust index that measures things like, it does take into account the Trustpilot score, but it also takes into account things like their age, how long they take to give you your winnings, how quick they process withdrawals, and generally, like, have they been fined by the UK Gambling Commission? Because generally, if they've been hit with a £500,000 fine, then it usually means that they've not looked after customer money properly, or that they failed and, targeted young people or people who have gambling addictions. They've not kind of protected the customers properly. So tries to go.
So on there, like, if we break it down a little bit with regards to the scoring system and the mechanism of obviously ranking bookmakers, there's an OTBB kind of trust index score there.
Yeah.
Does it include anything to do with like a welcome bonus? If it does, or if it doesn't, if let's say this is the welcome bonus, but then obviously kind of bonuses or free bets for existing customers, is any of that taken into account, or is it more on the legitimacy and compliance side?
It's more on the legitimacy and compliance side. I came up with another scoring framework called the offer value score that was specifically for the bonuses, because the bonuses are constantly changing depending on what the sporting climate is. Like the World Cup, they'll go change the bonus. If it's Cheltenham, they'll go change the bonus. It didn't seem fair, because then if I was to write a review and give a bookie a poor score for the trust index, and it's just because it might be the Grand National and they've reduced the free bet from 30 quid down to 5 quid, it didn't seem fair to score them as untrustworthy for having a smaller bonus, when if anything, it's often the newer, less trustworthy bookies that are chucking out the big 100 quid bonuses and things like that, whereas like the older, more established, trustworthy bookies are the ones that tend to keep it more sensible, like £30-40. So I came up with a completely separate score just specifically to focus on bonuses. The trust index is pretty much like, can you trust them? Are they legit? Will they give you the money?
On that, with regards to the money side of things, on the banking and deposits, have you put anything in there with regards to like what's available, whether like Skrill's available or PayPal's available, or whether it's only they can't obviously do credit card anymore, but like debit card and stuff like that. Klarna sometimes pay now, pay later, stuff like that. So is there any of that comes into it, or is it mainly just on the withdrawal times of what's being done, or the fees?
That was a complete another separate different scoring category, was payment flexibility options, because some people obviously want to use PayPal or Skrill or something like that because they don't want to use the debit card and then it appear on the bank statement on the joint bank account or something like that. They like to keep gambling funds completely separate from personal funds. I came up with a completely different scoring system for payment flexibility and payment options, and as well because things like PayPal and Skrill are often excluded from the welcome offer. It's usually you have to do bank transfer or debit card to get the welcome offer, so that all gets taken into account. The trust index, though, is specifically for how quick do customers get the funds, because these days with Visa fast funds and fast bank transfers, no bookie should be taking like 5 days to pay you, so that's why that comes into account. the Trust Index. If there's people complaining and saying, yeah, it took a week to get my winnings, it's not great. It usually means that the bookie themselves has gone and they've not protected customer funds enough and had customer funds in a separate bank account, and they're taking their time on purpose, usually because they might not even have the money themselves to pay out the customers.
Yeah, and do you look at anything to do with like the licensing or anything like that, or the website? I'm presuming the website design will come down to trust, but anything to do with licensing and stuff like that with regards to the Trust Index?
You'll see a lot of bookies they'll be like white label bookies. So for anyone that doesn't know, it's usually where they just go and pay for existing software, so you could spin up your own bookmaker website really easily. So when they've gone and got a UK Gambling Commission license number, and they've only had it for a few months, and then you look at the parent organisation that applied for that, and you see that they've got like countless other domains registered on the register, it generally doesn't look good, because what it probably means is that they've previously had a bookie under a different name the last year. They've got a load of bad reviews, people have complained about them, so they've just spun up a new website and got a new license number. So that generally doesn't look good. If it's like a bookie that's like say like a TalkSport or something, and they've been around for a long time, it's an existing brand, and they've not really been changing domain names. They applied for the license number maybe say in 2014 or something like that, and it stayed static ever since. It generally looks a lot better than a bookie that appeared 2 weeks ago that have constantly been chopping and changing and switching domain names.
Yeah, for sure. So if anyone is wanting to know who's ranked the highest, who's ranked the lowest, and what sort of order, where can someone see what the OTBB Trust Index score is for a specific bookmaker, whether it's like Betfred, Bet365, Paddy Power, William Hill, whatever the bookies are, how can they see this OTBB Trust Index score?
With an example like Bet365, they could just Google Bet365 OTBB Trust Index, and then my webpage for On the Ball Bets will show up, and you can see.
Yeah, okay, and then for each one, it's going to give an assigned score against it. And if they wanted to compare, let's say a punter was and ahhing whether to sign up with William Hill or with Bet365, they're able to check both of these trusted scores and go, do you know what? I think I'm going to go with, let's say, Bet365.
Yeah, and we show like a transparent breakdown as to why they've received that score. So if you're like, oh, hang on a minute, I thought that bookie was trustworthy, why have they only got a 4 out of 10? You might not realise that they've been fined £1 million last year because they've, not paid out customers when they should do or something like that. So you would be able to see why they've been given the score that they've got.
Yeah, that's great. So if any punters are watching this and you're wanting to know a comparison between all the different bookmakers and betting sites, whether you're betting on football or horse racing, there's an OTBB Trust Index score. If you're ever uncertain whether to sign up, let's say there's a new bookmaker called Bresbet, or there's a different type of bookmaker that someone's kind of referred you into, go and track that Trust Index score to see how well they rank, to see whether you're signing up with a trusted bookmaker or not. Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll see you again soon.